helping people. Uh, at some point, you realize that what you're doing is changing lives. Now, there's a version of that thought that is pretty cheesy thought, like it's silly to think about, but people are making decisions that are going to affect the rest of their lives, and you're
Sure.
part of that process. Uh, so you can lead them the right way. You can lead them down the wrong way. They don't know.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today, our guest is Josh Gray, Senior Recruiter with the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. Josh spent 24 years serving his country in the US Airforce, with 15 of those years working as an Airforce recruiter. Although the transition from military to civilian life can be a challenge for many people, Josh has been successful and has many insights to share on that process. Josh is loving his work recruiting elevator professionals and has found some of the same camaraderie he enjoyed in the military. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. This is going to be fun. And obviously, I want to learn a little bit about your military career and transition, but obviously, your recruiting career as well. So, what was it that inspired you to get into the military?
Growing up in the time that you and I did, there was a couple of movies out there that were really motivating. Top Gun, Full Metal Jacket. I think I saw things in those that kind of fired me up and got me wanting to serve. And then I actually went to an air show when I was in high school. Had never been to one before. My Saw some guys walking around the flight line. They're in camo.
Right.
Looked really put together. Like I'm like that's what you see on TV, like what you saw in the movie. I'm looking at them working hard, a lot of sweat, and but they're smiling, having a good time, high fiving. And I was like, something's wrong here. There's no way. I mean, jobs are supposed to be horrible. You're
Okay.
not supposed to have a good time, right? So, uh, I just gravitated towards that. I had talked to a recruiter in the past.
You mean so in high school you'd already talked to somebody?
Yeah. So when you take it's called the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, ASVAB.
ASVAB. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Um, they when you take that, most high schools have it obviously on record because the branch of service, that's how they find individuals that may have the aptitude to serve.
Okay.
The recruiters get a hold of that. They'll reach out to you. I took it. Everybody started calling. The Marine Corps called, Army called, the Navy called, the Air Force called. I had different
Guess you had the
conversations.
aptitude, right? They're like knocking on your door saying,
Well, I got to be straight with you, Matt. I actually was, we used to have the PA system. Came over the PA and said, anybody that wants to take the ASVAB. All I heard was an opportunity to get out of geometry.
anybody that wants to get out of geometry, please go take the ASVAB.
Yeah, so I go down to the lunchroom. I sit down. I have absolutely no idea. This guy's in uniform walking around. I didn't care.
Sure.
And I tried, but it's not a. It wasn't like I was giving my all, prepared to take it. Took it. Recruiters called. Like I said, I turned them all down,
Sure.
and ended up going to this air show. Like I said, I see some things. End up talking with my dad. There's something not right here. These guys are having a good time, and they're getting paid. Why are they smiling? And we had that conversation that I guess it was time for me to have as a teenager, which was there are things you can enjoy doing and get paid.
Right.
It doesn't have to be miserable. As a matter of fact, I'd suggest you not do that because life would be pretty rough that way. I called the recruiter back. And he's like, you know, said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me." He's like, "Yeah, I remember you." And we connected, and things just started, doors just started opening up. Um, and we talk to this day. As a matter of fact, he lives in Vegas.
Wow. Okay.
He works for a company that, if you go to any kind of events, concerts, whatever, you see these guys with yellow and black
Sure.
security
Sure.
thing. So he's like some type of vice president in it. He's really done well. Um, but matter of fact, he used to talk to me about, you need to become a recruiter, and I'm like, I'm never doing that. There's no way I'm
So
ever
so
going
this
to
is
get
after you joined. So you ended
Yeah,
up joining,
yeah,
and he was still involved. Somehow you were still acquainted, and he was like, "Hey,
yeah,
you need to
yeah,
be on this side of the branch,
yeah.
the side of
I'm
the
like,
branch of the."
no, yeah, I'm
Okay.
like, no, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So, no, yeah. So, some people you connect with, and no matter where your career takes you, um, I still talk to people today after retirement. I talk to them probably at least anywhere from once a week to once a month. Um, and so, anyway, he was kind of a mentor. He was basically everything that, I had heard a recruiter was not going to be. He was straight with me. He told me things I didn't like to hear, but I need to hear. He helped prepare me for boot camp and things like that.
Now, what had you heard about recruiters? Right. What?
You can hear about it now. You can find it online. As a matter of fact, there have been some internet sites that would lead you away from joining the military by telling you every bad thing a recruiter is
Hmm.
or will do. And obviously back then we didn't have the internet, but it was very be careful what they tell you. They'll be dishonest. This guy was completely straight with me. Like everything he said it was going to happen and how it would go is how it happened. And frankly, if I'm thinking about it the right way, it probably is why I became a recruiter. It's because I had a good recruiter who
Yeah.
took care of me.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about. I mean, you sounds like initially you were like, "Heck, no, there's no way
Mhm.
I'm gonna." And so for the first several years of your career, you were doing something top secret that you can never reveal, as I understand it.
Yeah, yeah. I did something for about 10 years um, that I don't really talk about a whole lot, just because of the nature of it, and it's just what it is to do that. And there's certain careers like that, obviously, that you acknowledge you did, but you don't really talk a whole lot about. I was a little burnt out on that, and
Sure.
the Air Force was going through a time to where they wanted you to branch out and do other things. There are certain career fields like recruiting that are considered special duty assignments that
Hmm.
you would request to be a part of. Um, I chose to do that, so I had to go meet with a local recruiter near or where the base I was at. They interviewed me. Um,
How did you get over the initial hump? Because it sounds like you were like, "Heck, no!" Right? What was it that kind of made you rethink that?
I called him. I said, "Hey, well," I called him to talk about it.
Yeah.
Not that I was going to do it. I felt like he would be straight with me, which he was. And when I sat down with the flight chief, which is the term for basically on a team, the individual that pushes the recruiters to do their mission and is the boss.
Hmm.
Um, he said, "Josh, what questions do you have?" I said, I don't feel comfortable being dishonest. What is your take on that when I say that? And he said, "Well, being dishonest in recruiting here and now will get you fired and will ruin your career." It's like, okay. And he was right. I watched it happen
Yeah.
to, yeah. Yeah. So um, I applied, lengthy application, had to take a picture of myself. I had to get an official photo of myself in blues. One of the only career fields, truly, that how you look probably does matter. You're an ambassador to what the perception is of the branch of service that you are in. and that would be by the public
Sure.
or by fellow service members. So if you're not going to wear your uniform correctly or whatever, or you have a hard time doing that, you're not going to be selected in the same you're not in the same category of selection as somebody who's um, there's a kind of a crude term of poster boy, poster girl for whatever. That's what that
Right.
term is. Like
Hmm.
I know I've got friends that got slapped on a poster, was everywhere. We made fun of them. It's not cool to us. Well, I mean, yeah, it's not. It's cool on the outside. Wow, I want to be that guy or her. I want to get
Sure.
my pick. Nah, you get that. That's everybody's going to call you and go, must be nice. Yeah.
So what would you, I mean, what would be what was the hardest part of kind of wrapping your head around this thing we call recruiting? What was I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? There's a lot of, hey, you need to go
Mhm.
find, you know, uh, we call it sometimes a purple unicorn, right? The exact, you know, ideal I have in my mind. I need to go find that. Um, so I'm just curious, what was the hardest part of kind of learning the trade, if you will?
Um, so you go to a schoolhouse. So actually, brick and mortar structure, recruiting school. Um, I think I took one written test the whole time I was there, or computer, yeah, written actually with pencils and everything. The rest of it was scenario based. So when I say that, I'm talking about it was like a go, no go. Your thumbs up, thumbs down. Either you can do it or you can't. And they put you in uncompromising, uncomfortable situations, speeches. That was probably the hardest thing was tapping into that part of me that will flip a switch and have this podcast with you. And then and then after we're done, unless it's work related, I may not speak to anybody but my family the rest of the day. Um, and I think that's natural for some. For me, I I don't. Um, Professionally, I'm one way. Obviously, I've been doing it a long time,
Sure,
and then
sure.
I have a different version um, of my personal life.
So you're not a social butterfly that just goes out and
Mm, no,
talks to
no,
everybody and about everything.
right.
And yet when you, like you say, you hit the switch and it's like, hey, we have a
I'll
mission.
talk.
I need to
Yeah.
go find
Mhm.
such and
If we
such.
if we were looking for elevator mechanics today, I'll call anyone. I'll talk them to death. Yeah, I know that seems kind of crude, but that's really it. And when I'm done, other than speaking to my family about their day, I may just sit and be quiet the rest of the time.
What did you enjoy most about recruiting once you really got into it?
Helping people. Uh, at some point, you realize that what you're doing is changing lives. Now, there's a version of that thought that is pretty cheesy thought, like it's silly to think about, but people are making decisions that are going to affect the rest of their lives, and you're
Sure.
part of that process. Uh, so you can lead them the right way. You can lead them down the wrong way. They don't know.
Yeah.
Um, there are sisters, mamas, brothers, cousin who tell them how it was back in 1975. They may think they know a lot. So much has changed since then. So
Sure.
you're really leading individuals into saying, like, a career path. Do you want to
Mm.
take this career path? Do you qualify for this career path? And how can I help you get started? I absolutely learned. I say learn because I didn't know it, but I actually loved helping people.
Yeah.
Feeling like I was a part of their process because at the end of the day, you know, I had a career. Well, somebody replaced me. That's
Right.
kind of one of the things I was mentored up front is when it came to my career, um, no one's going to take care of you better than you. That's not a selfish thing, but make sure you're taking care of yourself and your career. Two is leave it better than the way you found it. And to
Right.
do that is the training, the mentoring of others, because one day, and it happened, I leave, I fade away.
Sure.
The people that where in my circle, I was in their circle. Those are the only people I talked to.
Right.
Now I'm not even a memory to most. It's just that way. But somebody replaced me.
Right.
And that's how a branch of service, as an example, um, is over 100 years old.
Sure. So
It's
I'm curious.
somebody's turn.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
in addition, I mean, I always assumed that military recruiters only recruited 18-year-olds out of high school and had them do push-ups or
Hmm.
climb the little rock wall or whatever.
Yeah.
But you've told me it's obviously a lot more. It's doctors,
Mhm.
nurses, probably everybody on base. Were you also recruiting other recruiters that would come into your program, or what does that
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah. So just to touch on what you said, yes, your baseline start in recruiting, your entry level into recruiting would be high school uh, individuals, students that are either getting ready to graduate, or at the summer after graduation, and even beyond up to a certain age. And then we also would bring in individuals who were called prior service. They had served, they had honorably left, and then they decided to come back. Maybe the
Interesting.
grass
Okay.
wasn't greener on the other side, or whatever their plan was. Whatever, they missed it. They would come back, and you would put them back in under their previous, most times under their previous um, job code, to do the same job they were doing before. But as you progress, uh, the longer you stay in recruiting, there's officer sessions. So certain career fields are really driven uh, by individuals who have a certain type of degree. Um, and then you've got health professions. I recruited doctors and dentists, nurses who have not only a certain degree, but they have a certain certification or license to do the job. Um, and then we also had recruiters that if you were on active duty and you were leaving, you had to talk to this recruiter to make sure you didn't want to continue your service on a part-time basis.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. So let's say you did a 6-year enlistment. All of this training that has been put into you, you completed. Are you sure you want to just go to the house and be done?
Right.
Because we have a certain percentage that comes back to us.
Interesting.
So if we catch them at the door, we help them transition to a reserve side, wherever they're going to call home. They go home. And then in that case, they would participate 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year,
Sure.
minimum. And they would keep their service active, but just in a part time role.
Interesting. So kind of recruiting as they're walking out the door is
Yeah.
another part of it, which I mean, it makes sense, right? You got a huge
Hmm.
organization
Hmm.
that you got to keep the talent flowing in and make sure it continues to function. And so that's really your job as a recruiter, is just breathing in that life, that talent,
Yeah.
to make sure that they can fulfill the mission, basically.
Yes. And you had mentioned about recruiting recruiters. Once you got to the level of senior recruiter, or what we call flight chief, which is the same individual that I interviewed with, we have a recruiter for the leadership level that's called Recruit the Recruiter program, oddly enough. And you actually um, go out on base, find service members that might want to have interest in being recruiters, and you recruit them. You interview them, you put their package together, their picture together, you send it to headquarters. And so even as a boss, I had a um, certain amount of um, package submittals that I had to give each year, um, in hopes of getting if it was three, to get one of them to actually become a recruiter in our program.
So you only recruit from within you don't go out on the open market and find
Mhm.
recruiters and say, hey, you want to join the military?
Some of them, as long as they're serving with us, let's say they had been in a different branch of service as a recruiter,
Mhm.
we do consider that as a
Okay.
previous experience. But majority of what I'm talking about are individuals that were just like me. They're like, I need a change. I had somebody said, I've always wanted to be a recruiter. I'm just trying to get all the pieces in
Interesting.
place to make myself competitive towards being chosen. And then they go to an evaluation course for about a week, where they, if anything, try to explain what recruiting is going to be like, but also dissuade you from doing it
Talk you out of it.
because,
Okay.
yeah, because it's a tough, um, it's it's a tough. There are no set hours. There's time away from family. Um, I have recruited while on vacation in a port in the Caribbean when I shouldn't have been, but that's what I had to do.
Sure.
That was on my anniversary one year. It
Ooh,
didn't go over well. Yeah, but
yeah.
um, also what put us in that position to be there is keeping keeping the pipeline moving forward.
Sure. Sure.
So it was an issue. I felt the need to take care of it. I took care of it. But that's a part of understanding that there are jobs where at 4:30, 5 o'clock, you're done. You go home every
Sure.
day.
Oh,
Recruiting is not that way.
sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating. It's interesting that too that you would, I guess, look internally. Somebody could be jumping out of a plane 1 month, and then a few months later
Mhm.
they're working as a recruiter, and I guess
Yeah.
the just the it's you have to be. Sounds like you got to be a soldier first. I don't know if that's the right term, right? You got to be in
Yes.
the military
Yes.
first,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
it's like, okay, then you can add this special duty on.
Well, this will you'll probably agree with this, Matt. How can you sell
Sure,
what you
what you
don't
don't
know?
know. True.
I mean, I have no credibility with you of joining the Air Force if I'm not sitting in a really sitting in a uniform, showing that I've been here for a number of years and I can
True.
um, speak about it to a certain degree. Your sales opportunity there is not going to be very high. There's going to be people that join, but more often than not, you probably led them astray with something that you didn't even know what you're talking about. That's the
Yeah.
worst thing you can do. You
Yep.
go find the information, but don't give it until you know what it is, because they're going to latch on to that and go, Sergeant Gray said this.
Right.
So whatever Sergeant Gray's saying is going to be, to the best of my knowledge, the way it is.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So, having made the transition from military to civilian life, um, what are some of the challenges that you faced?
I think you for me, I served for 24 years, and I think you the civilian lifestyle and the military lifestyle are different. One's not better than the other. I don't think. I just think it's different, and the military is made to be different than the civilian lifestyle. That's why they do things. Just the expectation is different, and such. When you've been doing that for whatever amount of time you've been doing it, and then you transition to the civilian side professionally, um, the language is different as far as um, you may have a job in the Air Force that has no brother or sister comparable in the civilian side of the house.
Mhm.
So what do you go do? Or how do you take your skill set, uh, put it on paper, get in front of the right person, and then verbalize it to an employer right in front of you, that you're the person they should choose and spend resource and time on to better their company.
Right.
So, and even the assertiveness. Um, in the military world, assertiveness is required,
Right.
or you're not going to make it. Time frames, many of them are you can't you can't bust a time frame. You can't be late, on things.
Okay. Mhm.
Um, it could cost lives and resources. So sometimes in the civilian world, they don't function that way. If you miss it, you miss it. You get it when you get done. It's hard to transition to that. It's hard to
Right.
it's hard to
Okay.
mesh in sometimes. So I think it's said to be hard. We talk about it being hard, but a lot of things, you might agree, until you do them, you don't realize really how hard it is for you to transition
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
something else.
Well, and especially like you said, 24 years, right? Really from high
Mhm,
school on,
mhm.
and to to make that shift. I've just known some people that hey, that's a tough, maybe tough to find your place in the world. And yeah, if my job doesn't translate, how do I then find a place, find a new social network? Because everybody I knew is no longer, in my day to day.
Hmm.
So now I got to find new friends. I got to find, maybe I'm even relocating, coming home from a different country, and it just seems like there's a lot involved there, and certainly some
Yeah,
programs. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just what you said is perfect. They veterans also don't necessarily know what they're applying for. I mean, they don't have. If you did 20 years, for example, and you're late 30s, early 40s, and you've not ever had to apply to a job post, write a resume,
Hmm.
would you not agree that most employers are probably going, you should already know how to do that,
For sure.
but they never had to. I mean,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
just something like that is just a one example of stress about, oh, it's easy, just find it on the internet and fill it out. Okay, we can do that, but we still don't know. We've not had the you know 10 job interviews just to get the 11th one. They've not had any, and they need a
Yeah.
job now. They're making a transition now under certain constraints and things like that. So you're absolutely right. There are probably just unthought of struggles
Sure.
that are taking place every day with
Yeah.
individuals that are leaving a branch of service to go back out into the civilian world.
Yeah. What are some of the programs available to those who are getting out? And is that something that you participated in?
Yes, one thing they do is called Transition Assistance Program, and that is a government driven program. Takes individuals that have decided to leave and tries to put them through a course of understanding how to write a resume, how to use the acronyms we use, but don't put them on a resume and type out, verbalize what you're trying to say that a civilian employer or human resources would understand. Things about your insurances being different. Um, you know, your medical care.
Sure.
When you're serving on duty, you don't pay for medical care.
Yeah.
Now you do, and how does that affect how much? What type of chunk is coming out of your check wherever you're going to work? How does that work? So they just pretty helpful from that aspect. You can't cover everything, but it gives you kind of a nudge and a head start towards getting out. Uh, One program that I utilized is called the SkillBridge program. So it allows you to apply well before basically your last 6 months of separation or retirement.
Mhm.
You apply, you establish yourself with a company that wants to basically sponsor you. They're going to train you for 6 months. The last 6 months you're there. You continue to get paid by your branch of service. The employer
Right.
does not have to pay you. So they win in that. They get a trainee, they provide resources and training, get them ready for a position that might want them to do for their company. The government continues to pay them. At that 6 month mark, they get someone that was already highly trained, structured, regimented, disciplined. They taught them something. Now they can use them as an employee if both sides agree. What
Right.
the veteran gets is not such a um, culture shock or a shock of any type, and a little bit of a slower transition to the civilian world.
Right.
Um, an example of that might be for 24 years, the Air Force issued me a uniform, boots, what to wear, when to wear it. Maybe in that 6 month time frame of SkillBridge, you can learn that you have a wardrobe or you have to go get one to go to work every day.
Right. Yep.
And so it's a lot easier to do that then than to be trying to find a job. You've already been separated, you've already been retired, or you have retired. Now you're trying to find a job, you don't know what to wear. There's some stresses in that that maybe you don't have to go through. And it's kind of a win win situation for both parties involved.
Yeah, well, especially if the employer doesn't have to pay because the
Hmm.
military's paying, then
Hmm.
they they really have no risk
Yeah.
to bring on somebody, try them out,
Hmm.
maybe love them, maybe not, but they weren't paying, so we can
Right.
bring somebody on, see how it goes, and like I said, give somebody a chance to get to know, this job, this company, this,
Right.
you know, some of the civilian life. So having landed in the elevator industry, doing some elevator recruiting,
Hmm.
what's your assessment so far? What are your thoughts?
So I love it. I think why is I find similarities to my military career. So part of my struggle in leaving was I was fine. I was prepared myself as well as I could. Um, I wasn't fully prepared. Things happened I didn't know about. Um, my family and I were able to overcome those, no matter how great or small. Um, tried a few things out work wise, able to do it, but something was missing the whole time. Like there was a piece of me missing. So I think what that was, that I have figured out with the elevator industry is that I need to be somewhere where I am serving and of value. I, I I'm a serving, I still want to change lives. So if I'm going to do it, I want it to be that, that we're recruiting the right people. When I talk to individuals on the phone, even today, about the Allred Group, I say we're trying to find elite talent and put them in positions to make the industry better, not just your company, the industry better. The people I've come to find out are super passionate about what they do in this industry. Um, they care that they come across like they care about each other.
Mm.
I'm having some really great conversations that lead me to believe that I'm being allowed into the circle
Sure.
of this industry. Um, but it kind of goes back to, I mean, it's funny you asked that. It kind of goes back to being a teenager and feeling like you want to be a part of something bigger than you are and complete a mission. And I'm getting to do that again in my elevator industry career, with bringing all this skill set and stuff. So if we look back on what you're asking, the skill bridge and everything that I had accomplished, I'm getting to bring into the elevator industry and make it better. And if I'm making it better, then selfishly at some point it's better for me and my family. I mean, we all have to do what our part of this industry to keep it strong and to keep putting food on the table, or whatever you have going on. Um, and it's allowed me to do that. And it's nothing against what I did before, but it just felt like more like a job.
Sure. Sure.
And the military is not punching a clock. Like I never ever punched a clock. You usually show up early, you stay late if need be, you get the job done, and you have a good time with the best people in the world. And I'm trying to duplicate that in this industry, and I really feel like it's there, and it's been that way thus far.
It's awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I've noticed it, since I started working in the elevator industry, that there is a
Mhm.
camaraderie, there is a something special, and that's part of the reason I have these conversations, because
Yeah,
I feel it myself. I'm like, we need to talk about that. So
yeah.
thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for being here with me today, and I enjoy working with you. So thanks again.
I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity too, because there are guys like me out there. Just to be honest with you, that um, the industry may not know how to get to them, but they also don't know how to get to the industry.
Sure.
um, and on a side note, just the way that you and I kind of pulled another ASVAB getting out of geometry. I saw this job post and said, elevators, that's hilarious. I thought it was funny. I'm going to apply for that. Matt Allred called, and here I am.
Rest is
But
history.
my intent was not to go get this job. It turned out to be the absolute best thing I could have done. And it's funny, just in life, I think that's how things happen. It usually happens when you're not paying attention or you're not trying so hard. Um, but I mean, it's kind of like finding that niche. Like you said, I have finally found mine, but albeit it took me 3 years to find.
Sure, sure. When you talked about, they don't know how to find the industry, or the industry don't know find them. That's our job, right? Our job is to make that magic happen, make that connection, and that's why we're here. So thank you again, Josh. Enjoyed it,
Yes, sir.
and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. Please visit our YouTube channel at Elevator Careers, or check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.